Welcome to a Mastering the Marketplace video. You can find more videos, hands-on labs, and example code at this URL, aka.ms/mastering the marketplace.
So let's talk about the VM creation and customization. So when you're building a VM, you have to configure it. So the thing you need, of course, you need a VM, but a VM on itself inside Azure requires a couple of other resources. One of these are the network security group. You need a VNet, a public IP, and a disk. And then you are going to configure your environment, right? Put your scripts, put your intellectual property, and you're going to take a snapshot of the environment, right? That snapshot is then what you're going to be used to create that disk or that BHD, that's what we call it, for you to share or deploy in the customer environment. So what we're going to do now is we're going to allow Nida to demo how this is performed, and we're going into the next topic.
Let's go ahead and now take a look at how we can create a virtual machine and also take a look at how we can customize it a little bit so that we know that we have made modifications to that virtual machine. All right, so I'm back here on my Azure portal page. And in order to get customization done for the virtual machine, I have deployed a couple of scripts within my storage account. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my storage account that we created earlier, move over to the data storage section under containers. I'm going to go in and create a container called scripts. And then I'm going to modify the public access level to a blob and hit create. So what this is going to do is it's created a container called scripts of type blob. And inside this, I'm going to upload the scripts that I'm going to be using for customizing my virtual machine. So let's go in and go to select files. Select the appropriate ones. So I have one file for customizing Linux machines, and then I'm going to go in and upload another one for customizing my Windows machine. Right, and I'm going to upload both of these. So you'll be doing pretty much the same steps before you start creating on customizing your virtual machine. Just so you know, these scripts are available in the VM workshop link. Whoops, sorry. In the VM workshop link that we've sent you. So you'll simply go into VM offers, click on scripts, and these scripts are available. So you can just go ahead, clone this repository, and just use this link to clone the repository, and you will have the scripts required to run the customization for post-deployment scripts as well. All right, so now that I have my scripts ready, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Azure services and click on virtual machines here, or I'm going to go into my search and search for virtual machines, which is going to bring me to this page. All right, before we start creating a virtual machine, let's see what we're going to do. We will be creating two virtual machines today, one with the base image of Windows using that custom script, another with Linux using the script, as well as testing it out on how it works using Cloud Init. So let's go ahead and click on Azure Virtual Machines here. All right, so this page that you're looking at is the customization page for everything that you need to modify for or set up your virtual machine. So we're going to start off with the subscription. So this subscription is what I'm using to pay for the resources that I'm creating, including this virtual machine. Like I mentioned earlier, I already have a resource group created, and I'm going to put all of these resources within my VM Workshop demo resource group. But if, and you probably have created one too when you created the storage account in the lab earlier. So you can go ahead and continue to use the same one. So with respect to why we need to keep putting this in a resource group, it's essentially to group all related resources under the same hierarchy. So we know that everything inside a particular resource group is for a defined purpose. So I'm going to go in and give this a name of Linux VM within my workshop demo resource group. I'm going to put in my region. I'm in the West US too, so I'm going to keep that as is. Next, for availability, now this one is something that you're really going to have to think about when you're setting up your production virtual machines. And the reason behind that is you want to understand how available and resilient your VM should be. Now, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to choose no infrastructure redundancy required because I don't really want to set up an availability zone and have different resources in different zones or have two different availability zones and setting up an availability set. I'm not going to be doing any of these for this particular virtual machine that I'm creating, but you may want to think about this when you're creating a virtual machine in the production environment. So let's go ahead and select this. Now for security, again, I'm going to select the basic level of security for my virtual machine, but you can select any others that may be applicable for your scenario. Now for our first Linux VM, we're going to choose the Ubuntu Server 20.04 LTS Gen 2 image. So if you click on See All Images, it will show you all the different images that we have available that you can configure and start using. But like I mentioned, we're simply just going to go back in and use this Ubuntu Server 20.04 LTS Gen 2 image for now. And when you continue to move on to the lab for this section, you will see the exact versioning and image that you will have to select to get things going. So for Linux, I am specifically selecting Gen 2 because I'm going to be using a custom extension script to deploy certain infrastructure. Now, this has to do with compatibility of Gen 1 and Gen 2 with custom script extensions. Therefore, if you are using Ubuntu, I will suggest that you stick to Gen 2 if you want to continue to use the post-deployment script. And then I'm going to select this size that I have here. This one's going to cost approximately $60 a month. So you can also go in and configure any others that you want in case you don't really require this kind of require this size to run the workloads that you will be on your virtual machine. You can obviously go in and also see all the different sizes that you have in there. But for now, I'm just going to leave this as standard B2MS, leave that default. Next, we're going to take a look at the authentication types. Now we can have two different authentication types for Linux, which is SSH public key or a password. Now the password is going to be pretty direct. You're just going to have a username and a password associated with it. But let's take a look at how we can do this via SSH. So let's give our SSH public key a name. I'm just going to give it Linux VM, the same as what I had earlier, or you can just use the default that was there. So this is going to be the username and the key pair name that I've generated, that I will be generating. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the HTTP port, and you'll understand why in just a little bit when we look at what the scripts are creating. And once that's done, let's go into disks. I'm going to configure this to standard HTTP because we don't really have any critical workloads running So this one should do. And then we're going to check this box which says delete with the VM. So any OS disks that are created will be deleted once that virtual machine is deleted as well. I'm going to leave the rest of this as is, default, but if you wanted to change any encryption types in production, you can do so as well. Let's switch over to networking. So like Julio mentioned earlier, when you create a virtual machine, it's creating a couple of other infrastructure in order to support this virtual machine, like a virtual network, a subnet, as well as a public IP. So this public IP is what you're going to be using, is going to be the public facing IP that you can access, and then any subnet that you may require in case you have multiple resources within the same resource group, etc. So as you can see, it is creating a couple of other resources in order to set up this virtual machine for us. I'm going to leave the network security group to basic, allow these selected ports that I've selected earlier, and then just leave everything else default and move on to the next one. All right, so under management again, I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to pretty much leave everything default, but when you are in production, you will want to make sure that you configure it according to your requirements. So this enables an auto shutdown at 7 p.m. So if they're exactly at 7 p.m. UTC, it will shut your system down. Let's go ahead and look at advanced. Now, this is where we're going to use extensions for post-deployment configurations and automation. And this is essentially where our scripts are going to come into play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the extension and go in and look for custom script for Linux. So once I do that, it's going to ask me to browse for that particular file. So we saw that, yeah, I put it in here, but I've also put my scripts in this in the storage account early on. So I'm just going to go ahead, select this one, and now my script file is added. So what I also want to do here is change the command to reflect the file that it's going to be running. So if you look here, it says that the command is script.sh. We want to change that to reflect the file that we want it to run. So if you don't make this change, your deployment may fail and throw an error. So just make sure you change this when you're doing the lab on your own. So now I'm going to come back and hit create. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to pass my validation. I'm going to take a quick look at my configuration setup, and then I'm just going to hit create there. So now it's thrown me this pop-up which says if we're going to be creating a new key pair. So what do you want to do about it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit download private key and then start creating the resource. All right. So this deployment is going to take a little bit of time. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and look at what this custom script extension is doing. And let me maximize my screen real quick. There we go. It's visible to everybody. So this custom extension linux.sh file is the same as what you will use in your offer setup as well. And this is the same one that I've cloned from my virtual machine offer lab repository. So if you look here, all this is doing is it's updating the virtual machine, installing the Apache server. So it's doing an apt-get install on Apache 2, and it's forcing up the yes parameters in case it asks for any confirmation. And what we're also doing is we're going into the index.html file for the Apache 2 for the Apache 2 server that's installed, and we're adding this custom message that says, welcome to your server for the virtual machine offers workshop. Now, this is going to be indication that our post-deployment script has worked. So it has not only downloaded the Apache workshop, the Apache server, but it's also added this custom message that we want right here. So once this is configured, what it's going to do is go in and restart this, restart the Apache server. Now, if we go in to the Windows script that we saw earlier, again, we're doing something quite similar. So we're gonna install the IIS server right here using this particular command, and then we're adding a little bit of content similarly like we did. So we're going to go into the www root folder, go to the iisstart.html file, and add this welcome to your server for the virtual machine offers workshop. So again, we're doing the same. We're just configuring the message that we're going to deploy once that virtual machine is deployed completely and successfully. All right. So, and then again, we're just going to restart this. That way we know that the changes are going to be reflected. All right. Now let's go back in. All right. So it looks like our script failed for some reason. Let's go in. See what the summary is. Okay, I think I know why it failed. Failed to execute the command. All right, so it looks like I may have a virtual machine configured with the same name, which is probably why it failed that. So what I'm gonna do is, okay, let me go into a resource group that I've created. And look for this virtual machine that I've already created. So because of conflicting names, that deployment failed, but I've also created another one called Linux test using that same script and the same deployment. So let's take a look at what it's done and whether it has been able to make those changes. So I'm going to go into a new tab, put that information in, perfect. And as you can see, it has gone ahead and modified, first of all, downloaded Apache for us, which is why this welcome page is even being shown to us. And then it's also added this custom message that we wanted. So if I go back in here, so you have the public IP that's exposing this Apache server, so anyone can go in and view this page. And then you will also see the different settings that we've configured. Now let's take a look at if we can SSH into this virtual machine that we've created earlier. So I'm going to go in and look for the path of my key here. I'm going to copy the path and right here. So what I'm doing is essentially getting the path. So when we initially created the virtual machine deployment, it downloaded a particular key for us before starting the resource creation. So I'm simply going in and getting that location of the key, pasting that here, and I'm going to copy it. Let me open up a command prompt real quick and bring that up here. It's visible to everybody, but essentially what I'm doing is pasting this code here, that command there, to SSH into that virtual machine. Let me see if I there, so it's visible to everyone. So I've just pasted that command that I got from the from that connect page. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yes, I do want to connect to this. And perfect. There we go. So now I'm inside my virtual machine, and I can go in and make any changes here. So I can do apt get update so that my virtual machine is updated. This perfect. So it's going and doing my update. So in this way, you can also go in to your virtual machine, SSH into it, and make any changes that you may want. So now that it's done, and I don't want to make any more changes, I can just exit out of that. Now this was about about how you can do it for a Linux virtual machine. Now, how can we do the same and RDP into a Windows virtual machine? Again, the steps for creating a Windows virtual machine is exactly the same, except you will just be using that other script. And I've just gone ahead of time and created this virtual machine here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to copy this and quickly check if the server is installed. So perfect, it's installed the IIS server for me. I also added the custom message. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and go back to connect. Now for a Windows, for the Windows machine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to RDP into it. So I'm going to go in, download that file. I'm going to say open, which is going to throw me this, this little tab that says, you know, do you want to connect? And I'm going to say connect to it, which is then giving me this. So here I'm going to say use something else. I'm going to give in my username and password that I created earlier, which is then going to ask me whether I identify this certificate. So I'm going to say, yes, I do want to identify this, which is then opening up my virtual machine for me remotely. So this entire page that you're seeing right now, I know it's blank at the moment, but what you see right now is essentially the page that that we've created for ourselves. Now, let me do. All right. So this is essentially we're inside the virtual machine that we created earlier. So let's go ahead and minimize this for now. All right. Now, what we also want to achieve as part of this is, let's go into settings and check for any updates. Let's go in here. So as you can see, we do want to make sure that, you know, this virtual machine is up to date. So we're going to go in and make sure that all of this install and everything is completed. So once we've done this, we know that our virtual machines are going to be compliant with publishing for creating a virtual machine offer on Marketplace. Right, now this installation is going to take just a little bit of time. And so if I just minimize this, I know that I'm back in my Azure portal. So all you need to do in order to RDP into your machine is just go into RDP inside the Windows machine and click download RDP file. And once you double click it, you will have to enter your username and password that will then get you inside the virtual machine. Now, we used certain post-deployment scripts to configure our virtual machine. So, you know, we installed the IIS server and made some modifications on the homepage of that. But you can also do so manually on once you've RDP'd it into the virtual machine as well. So you could well simply just go into your server manager and download any servers that you may want, or if you have any other installations, softwares, IP that you may want to add, you can simply go ahead and do all of that inside this virtual machine right here. All right, now let me quickly, I'm going to minimize this, take it back. And let's show you how you can also do the same for the server manager right here. So I'm going to grab this back in here. So if you look at the screen here, it's showing us the server, the IIS server. So if you wanted to do a manual installation of this, you can simply go in to your server manager, add roles and features, and add any other role-based feature installation that you may want to complete. So you can take a look at any installations that you may want to make right here. So I'm just going to close this because we've already installed the IIS server. All right, so hopefully by now, let's take a look at this. Perfect. Our virtual machine is up to date. And this is the stage we want to leave our Windows machine before we move on to the next sections. All right, now I'm going to quickly stop sharing my screen, and Julio is going to introduce the labs for this section again, which is where you're going to create either a Linux machine or a Windows machine of your choice, and just redo the lab that we just did.
Thank you for joining us for another video from Mastering the Marketplace, the learning library where technologists go to get their offer on the Microsoft Marketplace. For more videos, hands-on labs, and sample code, find us at aka.ms/masteringthemarketplace.